Today, we're gonna get real, and we ask some hard questions about some problems that I have with collecting. So let's face the music together. Everybody, welcome back to the journey. When I went into this collection run, I really had no idea what I was getting into. I knew I was gonna take on an investment of time and money, but there were so many other factors that I had no idea about. I mean, how could I? That's why I'm called the Padawan collector, basically the beginning collector. I'm pretty much new to this. So today, I'm gonna get very raw and very real about some problems that I have and some problems that I see out there in the community. And these problems are gonna face us at some point in our collection runs. So let's get real and let's go. I recently put out a poll asking collectors what their main problems with collecting were that they're facing right now. The top problem was the high cost of collecting, but there were others that weren't on the list that were pretty interesting. Number 4, pre-order nightmares. And I think we can all relate to this, either all of a sudden getting a cancellation, not knowing when it's gonna come, or just the limbo that we feel while we're inside pre-orders. Number 3, faulty packaging that damages collectibles. I've had that happen to me before, and there was a lot of collectors that let me know they're going through the same thing. Number 2, not excited about what's out there right now. I mean, there's a couple of things that are cool, and obviously I have my Ahsoka focus. I can understand what some collectors mean. And the number 1 reason I saw, besides the high costs, not enough room for your collectibles. And I think we all go through that. Interesting finds in that poll, so let me know in the comments if you've had any of these problems too. And the first pitfall is the obvious pitfall: money and trying to stay on budget. Money is always the biggest and the most obvious obstacle. I mean, if money was no issue, or if our collections cost pennies to acquire, we would all be completionists, and I would have about 20 genres and 20 cases back there of full collections. Voltron, He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers. I mean, I would even have GoBots and Thundercats. I mean, not including the entire collection of Star Wars, not just the vintage. But even in my current collection, I've had to walk away from countless deals because I either couldn't afford that price that the seller was offering, or just because it was flat out of my price range. But because I do know the market and the current market prices, I'm able to walk away from figures that are way over my price range right now, and that are way over the market prices right now. And sometimes, just because it's a rare or sought after figure, sellers tend to get overzealous and try to pass off a lesser quality item for a high price. That does not fly for me, nor should it for you. I guess what I'm trying to say is patience is always the key. But that doesn't mean that you have to stop collecting just because the markets are going crazy right now. And it doesn't mean you have to stop collecting if money is an issue for you right now. There is always a positive way. So instead of just naming the problems, today we're gonna go over some solutions too. So if money is an issue, you have to slow down. You don't have to complete your entire collection today, this month, or even this year. Take some time to save up. Give yourself a collection goal, and don't be hard on yourself or frustrated if you can't meet that goal immediately. And some things to do to help you attain these goals is sitting down and creating a true budget, and a budget based on your current finances. Really seeing what your regular monthly expenses are gonna be and how much you have to set aside to save for those collection pieces. A lot of people have no clue how much they're actually spending a month, and they're trying to be collectors. You have to know your monthly regular spending if you're gonna continue a collection and be financially stable at it. By doing a budget and knowing your budget, it's gonna give you very realistic goals on what you can spend on your collection. And it will really help you focus on the items that you want for your collection. And it'll help you get into doing the market research. That way you know the exact prices and the trends that are happening right now in your collecting genre. And visual spreadsheets also help you focus your collection and help with your budget. Because often a collector without a focus spends way too much money on items they do not need, or eventually items that they don't want. And buying like that honestly leads to mental fatigue and financial fatigue. And nobody wants to get burned out on something as fun as collecting vintage toys or modern figures. And if you need help creating a free spreadsheet, watch episode 26. I take you through a full tutorial on Google Sheets. It's a free software, and if you have a YouTube account, then you can use this right now. Like I said, it's free, you follow the tutorial, and boom, you have your free visual spreadsheet. And another setback, especially for me, is the high costs of vintage figures in today's market. I mean, even modern figures. And during the pandemic, the prices went on the rise. It's starting to settle, but with vintage, at least from the historical data that we've seen throughout the years, the prices will only continue to steadily rise. I mean, it's true that with recessions, prices will go down a little bit, but when you look at the prices over time and what they've done since 1986, they just continue to keep steadily rising. And that's okay. We still have to budget. We still have to hunt, and we still have to hunt for great prices. And we still have to research the market prices to know today's market. I mean, that's just part of the hobby. But compromises are okay. And let me explain what some compromises could be. All right, I don't collect reproduction. I don't buy reproduction, but I don't frown on other people wanting to buy reproduction. I get it, it's a part of life, it's a part of collecting. And I get why that need is out there because of these really high vintage prices. So companies come in, most of them fan-based, to fulfill that very need. So if you really want a vinyl cape Jawa on your collection shelf and the price is the only thing that's standing in your way, there's a ton of fan-made items for sale. Or you can do another compromise and you can just create that item on your own by simply getting a beater Jawa and then getting a free template for a vinyl cape that's available right now online. You can just sit down on your workbench and an hour later, you have a vinyl cape Jawa that looks pretty dang near like the real version. And often sitting at a workbench and making mods on your own is more satisfying than spending galactic credits on a fan-made version or even a version that some companies make. But still, if you want a real vinyl cape Jawa, then just take some time and save up. You don't have to get it today. You don't have to impulse buy. I could wait 5 years, save up my money in 5 years, and get that vinyl cape Jawa that I'm looking for. But I'm still on the hunt for antique shops, estate sales, garage sales, just in case I see that little vinyl cape Jawa sitting right there in the corner. I had to compromise with my vinyl cape Jawa. I actually took it off my loose run. And I took it off because of the high risk that I could go into by accidentally getting sold a reproduction vinyl cape Jawa. They're so highly foraged, and for the money that I might be spending, upwards of $2,000, I don't want to take that big of a risk on that much money for that figure. So I took it off my loose run and I decided to only buy a graded vinyl cape Jawa. Sure, that still is a lot of money, but now I'm budgeting just for one high price figure instead of two. And that was the compromise that I had to make. Now, like I said, if I find one out in the wild or for a price that I just can't say no to, like a quarter of the market price, for sure I'm gonna buy it. But I'm still gonna research today's market prices so that I know today's current market price for any given figure. And again, just slowing down and budgeting and knowing your budget, that's the first key to make sure that money works with you and not against you. And also doing payment plans when those are offered. And of course, there's always waiting for better deals. Patience is the key, and hunting for better deals. That to me is the funnest part of collecting now, is really letting the deals come to me and me being patient and knowing those market values. And I've also had to sell off some of my collection to fund other parts of my collection. And you've seen me sell off some of my more modern figures to fund my now new vintage run. And of course, I would love to keep my modern figures, but since I'm not actively collecting those, nor right now do I find those exciting for me to collect, I'd rather put all my collecting funds and energy into my vintage run. So that was part of my compromise. In order for me to keep on collecting my vintage, I had to get rid of the items that I no longer wanted to collect or that didn't fit into my current collection run. So if you're trying to fund a collection, really take a look at what you have and see what you're not very interested in anymore and trying to fund other areas of your collection like that. And it's also kind of fun researching prices on what you have already, because some of the items that I had kind of surprised me on how valuable they were. And it helped me clear up space to make room for my vintage collection run. And another pitfall is life itself. Sometimes we need to sell off parts of our collections because of the things that life just gives us blows on. And I've bought pieces from collectors who needed to fund some things due to some trip-ups in life, and it happens. And although I feel sad for collectors having to do that, I really understand what they're going through and the circumstances that we all have to face just due to life. Or sometimes life just deals those unexpected blows to us that we have no control over, like fires, floods, getting your collection damaged by little members of our family, or even stolen. And the best thing that I can do to protect myself is to get insurance, either through renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance. But sometimes you have to read the small print, and sometimes your renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance will not cover certain aspects of your collection. And that's when I've had to go outside to other agencies to get collector's insurance. And there are companies out there that do this for art, comic books, sports memorabilia, and yes, action figures and collectibles. Now, I won't list companies here because I'm not endorsed by any companies, nor do I want that liability. But just like I did, I suggest that you do research on insurance companies that do favor collectibles, and make sure to get the best costs and protection for your region. And then there's just plain old losing interest. Let's be real, that's just life. That's reality. And that's healthy. We often move on from things in life. We outgrow things. We develop new and better hobbies. And certain things that we used to be enamored with kind of loses its luster. Same thing with collecting. I mean, that's how new lots come into play all the time. And that's how the cycle continues, with sellers who lose that luster selling to other collectors who still have that fire. And to those new collectors like me who come into it and are brand new Padawan collectors. And I have bought from collectors who've told me that story, that they just lost interest, that they're just moving on. In fact, I just saw a video the other day with a collector that says he's selling his entire collection because it's time to move on. Like I said, sometimes that's healthy. And another pitfall, which is probably the biggest one on this list. So the biggest pitfall, and the one that I've seen the most as kind of a real problem, is not having friends or family members understanding your hobby or even supporting what you're doing as a hobby. And not having the support of your friends and family isn't only hard on you, the collector, but it's hard for them not to understand why you love a certain hobby that you do love. And there can be multiple reasons for this. And really, I suggest talking to people about this, especially if you feel like you have no one to talk to. And if you do have no one to talk to, you should reach out to a professional therapist or a counselor. Because a lot of the times, the reasons why other people don't support our hobby is because there's deep-seated reasons and bigger reasons than just the collection itself or the act of collecting itself. And you'll be shocked to realize that a lot of the reasons why people's friends and families don't support their hobbies or collecting habits, that it isn't the act of collecting that they don't like, but it's the mania of it that they don't understand, especially if it's affecting the collector and the people surrounding that collector. Especially if they're spending way too much money on their collection that is borderline unhealthy or is crossing the line of being really unhealthy, because it starts affecting relationships with your employer, your friends, your family, your spouse, your children, and especially if your time isn't balanced with other aspects of your life. And all it's pretty much being focused on is your hobby or your collection. So I'm not saying this is you or anybody who's watching, but if it is, then it might be time to examine that. And if it isn't, then it's healthy just to be aware of it. And there are so many factors, and I am not a board certified therapist, nor do I pretend to be. But I have been through relationships with friends who have had major addictions. And I've gone through some addictions of my own. And I realize that there are healthy addictions and ways to maintain hobbies, and there is really unhealthy addictions and unhealthy hobbies. And these can lead to really negative consequences that affect loved ones and relationships all around us. But it's all leading back to the root fact that it's not the collection or the collecting hobby itself, but it's usually surrounded in deeper seated issues. And if that's the case, then it's time for those collectors to ask some really deep questions of themselves. And for us to always be aware that that is a possibility for any one of us. I mean, some of the questions you can ask yourself is, if your loved ones aren't supporting your relationship with your hobby, are you making sure that you're maintaining your relationship with them so that they understand those aspects of your hobby? Maintaining relationships and communications with those around you who are supposed to be your support network, that's super important. That is more important than any collection back there. And there is always roots to problems in our lives, but there are always positive solutions. And I have a very healthy relationship with my friends and my families and loved ones because I work at it all the time. And although they don't understand my hobby completely, they support the fact that I love this hobby and this community. And I think because I maintain my relationships and communications with all of my loved ones, they're more accepting of my hobbies because they understand where my passion lies. And the majority of it is with them. My hobbies don't affect my quality or quantity of time that I spend with them, or my life experiences that I share with them at any given time. And yeah, it's a bonus if you or your partners, loved ones, friends, or families share the same collecting goals and hobbies as you, but they don't have to. I'm never gonna push my hobby onto my loved ones because if they love me, they're gonna love my hobby. No, that's not how it works. Of course, they have to be accepting of it, but they have to understand that it's a healthy relationship with them, your hobby. It's just like the Force. Everything needs to have balance. But you would be amazed at how many stories that I have heard from collectors, and in the short time that I have been a serious collector. And these collectors often tell me that they feel like they're outcast from their friends and family because their family is just totally unsupportive of the hobby that they chose. And going deeper into questions that I ask without being too invasive, I'm finding that a lot of the time their communication skills with their family are non-existent, or the quality and quantity of the time that they spend with their friends and family. There's always a root, but like I said, there's always positive solutions. And if you're finding that this is you in a lot of aspects, then it's time to ask yourself some hard questions and maybe get some professional help. And there's always a professional to talk to. You can reach out to somebody at your church, your healthcare provider, or a professional HR person or counselor at your workplace. And I can't offer advice and won't offer advice on what to do on any given situation. But all I can say is that if you find yourself in trouble, please just reach out and ask somebody for help that is a professional, like a therapist or a counselor. And yes, I did go deep on this episode, but I feel that I've seen and heard these issues in this collecting community far too often. And I've only been collecting really for about 7 months now. And I feel that this is a community and that this is a real issue and problem in our community. And it needs to be talked about way more often than it is. In fact, I've only heard one other person talk about this, and it wasn't in depth, it was just a mention. I want all of us to maintain our collections, but at a healthy pace. We all have not only different styles, likes, and collections, but we are also very unique and special as individuals, and what we can afford and the speed at what we can afford our collections at. And we don't always have to keep up with the Joneses or other collectors that we see get piles and piles of mail calls every week. No, just collect at your own pace, and it's okay if it takes you a little bit longer at a time. That is perfectly fine. And it's perfectly fine if you can't get the best and mint of the batch. That's perfectly okay too. And like I said, there's always alternatives, and there's always compromises. And there's always taking time and having patience on the hunt. And there's always asking for deals. But it's up to all of us as a collecting community just to make sure that we're all doing this at a healthy pace and just being cool with ourselves and cool to our fellow collectors. And just make sure that you're not only having a healthy relationship with your collection, but those around you as well. So today, I am going to take it very, very easy and very, very budget conscious. And I'm gonna go into my childhood collection and I'm gonna resurrect a figure. And this is my childhood Admiral Akbar. And all that he's missing is his staff. Admiral Akbar was first available in early 1983 as a mail-in offer on the Empire Strikes Back 48B and 48C transitional card backs. And it was advertised as being from the upcoming Revenge of the Jedi film, as that was the first title of the now known Return of the Jedi. And he was officially available on his own card back in 1983 on the Return of the Jedi 65A card backs. He comes with his very unique black staff. And things to look out for on this figure is making sure the staff is straight and has no curves or missing or damaged notches. Also, knowing what a mint example looks like so you can compare where general paint loss comes from. And in Akbar's case, it's usually in his eyes, his yellow stripe, and also in the beige paint color, as often this beige paint can have overspray issues from the factory. And if you're looking to get a grade on this, that overspray is often the difference between an 85 and an 85 plus. And some fun facts about Admiral Akbar. His first name is Gil. And at the time of the Battle of Endor, he had been in military service for almost 60 years. And his command ship was known as Home 1. And today, we get an Akbar staff in the mail that we found on a claim sale on the Imperial Commissary on Facebook. The staff was being sold for $10, so we picked it up. And now looking on the Star Wars tracker, low prices for an Akbar are coming in at $33 on the average high end and $20 on the average low end. So yeah, I did get this for $10, but after taxes and shipping, it came out to $15.12. So if I could have found this at a local toy shop, loose and in this same condition at a decent price, that may have been the way to go, but honestly, I rarely see these accessories like this being sold by themselves at local toy shops or shops, to be honest anyway. So sometimes it is a necessity to buy accessories via the internet. So let's mark off this Akbar, and we used our OG Akbar from our childhood collection and got the staff for a total price of $15.12 with taxes and shipping included. And let's add this to our display case from Collector Displays. And our collection is almost complete. One more closer to our goal. So thank you for going on that deep dive with me on the pitfalls that we all face as collectors. And I know I went on a deep dive and got a little bit deep, but like I said, as a community, I think we need to talk about those issues a lot more than I see it coming up. And I just wanted to bring those to your attention, especially if you didn't know about them, because it can affect us all at any point of our lives and any point of our collection runs. And if you have any words of advice or encouragement for any of us, please let us know what pitfalls you faced or words of encouragement to anyone down there who leaves a comment. And let's give a thumbs up to all the comments that resonate with us. And yeah, what do you think about my Rami and Josh shirt? I really dig this shirt. And yeah, you can get your own in my merchandise shop. And the link for that is down there in my description. So if you found this video interesting, please hit that like button. It does support the channel. And also, please subscribe if you want to see more Star Wars collecting content from me. And also, hit that notification bell so you know when videos go live. I post videos every Saturday and sometimes bonus videos on Wednesdays. And as always, my friends, thank you, and I will see you next time. If you're new to the channel, check out the welcome video, or just check out the next episode. And please subscribe if you want to follow the journey. And remember, there is no shame in being a Padawan.